Listen, when it comes to relationships, a lot of people don't fail because they don't love each other. They fail because of the mistakes they keep making over and over again. Love by itself is not enough. If love was all it took, nobody would ever break up. It's about wisdom, choices, and effort. Now, there are some mistakes that, if you keep doing them, will cost you your peace, your joy, and eventually the person you care about. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they can change somebody. Let me tell you something: people don't change because you want them to. They change when they decide to. If you go into a relationship hoping to turn somebody into what you wish they were, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. What you see is what you get. If you can't accept them as they are, don't waste your time or theirs. Another mistake is lack of communication. Relationships die in silence. Some of y'all would rather argue in your head than open your mouth and express how you feel. You cannot expect your partner to read your mind. Closed mouths don't get fed, and closed hearts don't get healed. If you want love to last, you have to talk it out, even when it's uncomfortable. Let's talk about trust. Without it, you've got nothing. A mistake too many people make is holding on to old wounds and bringing them into new relationships. You can't make your new partner pay for what somebody else did. If you don't heal first, you will sabotage something good by accusing, doubting, and assuming. Trust is earned, yes, but it's also given, and you've got to know the difference. Then there's neglect. You cannot put your relationship on autopilot and expect it to fly forever. Some people get so comfortable they stop doing the very things that made the other person fall in love in the first place. You stop dating each other. You stop complimenting each other. You stop showing appreciation. Next thing you know, the spark is gone. Love is like a plant. If you don't water it, it will die. A common mistake is making everything about yourself. A relationship is not a one-way street. You can't always be the taker. You've got to learn to give, sacrifice, and compromise. Selfishness destroys more relationships than infidelity ever could. When you truly love someone, their happiness matters to you as much as your own. Another big one, staying in something toxic just because you're scared of being alone. Let me help you with this. Being single and at peace is far better than being in a relationship and miserable. Don't hold on to somebody who's draining you, disrespecting you, or mistreating you. That's not love, that's fear. And fear has no place in a healthy relationship. Don't let pride ruin your connection. Some folks would rather be right than be together. Pride will have you holding grudges, refusing to apologize, or acting like you don't care when deep down you do. Love requires humility. Sometimes you've got to say, I'm sorry, even when it wasn't all your fault, just to protect the bond. Another mistake is comparing your relationship to others. Social media has fooled a lot of people. You're out here looking at highlight reels while ignoring the behind the scenes of your own life. Every relationship is different. Every journey is unique. Stop trying to measure yours by somebody else's. Water your own grass. And finally, don't ignore red flags. When people show you who they are, believe them. Love is patient, but it is not blind. Don't excuse lies. Don't excuse disrespect. Don't excuse laziness. If you keep ignoring red flags, they will turn into deal breakers later. Protect your peace from the start. Relationships can be the most beautiful part of life if you avoid the mistakes that slowly destroy them. Love takes effort, honesty, patience, and respect. You can't play games with it. You've got to be intentional. You know one of the greatest mistakes people keep making in relationships. It's this idea that you can take somebody and mold them into exactly what you want. You meet somebody, and instead of accepting them as they are, you start carrying around this mental checklist of all the things you plan to change about them. Maybe you don't like how they dress. Maybe you don't like how they spend money. Maybe you don't like how they handle family or responsibilities. And you think, once we're serious, I'll fix all of that. Let me help you right now. That is not love. That's a project. And people are not projects. When you love somebody, you don't fall in love with their potential. You fall in love with their reality. Potential is not guaranteed. You can see somebody with the ability to grow, the possibility of becoming better. But none of that matters if they don't want to change for themselves. You can't force it. If a man doesn't want to step up and be responsible, your nagging won't make him do it. If a woman doesn't want to be honest, your begging won't turn her into someone she's not. People only change when they decide that their life will be better if they do it. What happens when you try to change somebody is you create tension and resentment because nobody wants to feel like they're not enough as they are. If every time you open your mouth, it's about what they need to fix, what they need to stop doing, or what they need to start doing, you're sending the message that they're not worthy of your love until they become your version of better. That's not love. That's control. And control kills intimacy. It makes the other person shut down because they feel judged instead of accepted. No, confuse this with supporting someone's growth. There's a difference between motivating your partner to pursue their goals and trying to redesign them into your fantasy. Encouragement says, I see the greatness in you, and I believe you can achieve it. Control says, you're not good enough as you are, and I won't be happy until you're exactly how I want you. One builds love, the other destroys it. See, here's the truth. The version of that person you see right now is who they are. If you don't like it, you have a choice. You can accept it and learn to love them as they are, or you can walk away and wait for somebody who naturally fits what you're looking for. But what you cannot do is stay and secretly hold onto the hope that one day they'll wake up and turn into a brand new person just because you wished it. That's how people waste years of their lives, sitting in relationships full of frustration because they're in love with what someone could be instead of what someone actually is. Let me give you something real. If you marry a man who doesn't like to work, don't be shocked when you find yourself carrying all the financial weight. If you date a woman who constantly disrespects you, don't expect her to suddenly honor you after the honeymoon phase. If you choose someone who lies, manipulates, or cheats, don't convince yourself that your love is going to magically cure them. Love is powerful, but love alone does not erase bad habits or character flaws. And here's the kicker: when you stop trying to change people, you give them the freedom to show you who they really are. Sometimes, when you accept somebody without pushing, they grow naturally because they feel safe with you. But even if they don't, at least you know you're not wasting your time trying to raise a grown person. Your job in a relationship is not to play parent, counselor, or repairman. Your job is to love, support, and build a life together. If the foundation is already solid, so many of us get trapped because we confuse compromise with change. Compromise is two people meeting in the middle, adjusting for each other in ways that strengthen the relationship. Change, the kind I'm talking about, is when one person tries to erase the other person's identity and replace it with their own version. That never works long term. At some point, the mask comes off and you're left with the truth you tried to ignore. The real power in relationships comes from clarity. If you see who someone is and you decide you can love them, flaws, quirks, habits, and all, then you've got something real. If you see who they are and realize you can't live with it, then you need to be bold enough to walk away before you invest years of your life. It's not about changing people. It's about choosing wisely from the start. One of the main reasons people struggle in relationships is because they refuse to communicate. They'll talk to everybody else about their problems except the one person they're actually in a relationship with. You'll call your best friend, your mama, your cousin, even a stranger on social media before you open your mouth and speak to the person you share a bed with. That right there is a recipe for disaster, because silence builds walls and assumptions turn into stories that may not even be true. See, here's what people don't realize. When you don't talk, your partner doesn't know what's going on in your head. They don't know that you felt hurt by that joke they made. They don't know that you've been feeling neglected because they don't compliment you anymore. They don't know that you're stressed about bills and need help. All they see is your attitude changing, your energy pulling back, and they're left guessing. Guessing leads to assumptions, and assumptions are almost always wrong. Then you find yourself fighting over something that could have been solved in a 5-minute honest conversation. The problem is, a lot of folks are afraid of being vulnerable. They think if they admit how they really feel, they'll look weak or needy or dramatic. So they hold it in. But what you hold in doesn't disappear. It builds up. And sooner or later, it's going to come out, usually in the form of an explosion. That's why people have arguments that seem way bigger than the situation. Because it's not just about what happened that day. It's about weeks, months, maybe even years of unspoken feelings finally boiling over. Another thing that kills relationships is this attitude of, well, they should already know. Let me tell you something, nobody is a mind reader. I don't care how much they love you, how long they've been with you, or how close you are. If you don't say it, they can't always see it. You can't expect your partner to just figure out every little need, every little thought, every little concern without you telling them. That's unfair. Healthy love is not about guessing games. It's about being clear. Communication doesn't just mean talking. It also means listening. Too many people use conversations like a competition, waiting for their turn to talk instead of actually trying to understand. Listening requires patience, humility, and empathy. It means you don't just hear the words, you hear the feelings behind them. Because sometimes it's not about solving the problem right away. It's about making your partner feel heard and valued. Now, let me say this. Communication is not always going to be comfortable. You're going to have to bring up topics that feel heavy. You're going to have to admit when something bothers you, even when you know it might lead to an argument. But that's the price of real intimacy. You can't build a strong relationship by sweeping issues under the rug, because the rug gets lumpy and eventually you trip over it. It's better to face it head on, talk it out, and move forward with clarity. A lot of couples break up not because of betrayal, not because of cheating, not because they stopped loving each other, but because they stopped talking. They let the silence grow until it became a wall too high to climb. They let pride keep them from saying, I miss you, I need you, or I'm sorry. And once that silence gets comfortable, it's almost impossible to break. That's why you've got to make communication a daily habit. Check in with each other. Share your thoughts. Say what you mean and mean what you say. It's not about talking all the time. It's about talking honestly, being real about your fears, your dreams, your frustrations, and your needs. When both people feel safe to communicate without judgment, the relationship becomes stronger because there's no room for confusion. There's no guessing. There's just truth. And truth builds trust, and trust builds love. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is jumping from one to another without ever giving themselves the chance to heal. They get hurt, they get betrayed, they get disappointed, and instead of sitting down, reflecting, and working through that pain, they run to the next person hoping the new love will erase the scars of the old one. But here's the truth. If you don't deal with your wounds, you're going to bleed on someone who didn't cut you. And that's how you end up punishing new partners for things they didn't even do. You ever notice how some folks carry baggage from their past like it's part of their outfit? Everywhere they go, that pain follows. Somebody cheated on them once, so now every time their phone rings late at night, they're suspicious. Somebody lied to them before. So now when their new partner says, I'm working late, they don't believe it. Somebody left them unexpectedly. So now they cling too tight because they're terrified of being abandoned again. That's not love, that's fear in disguise. And fear will choke the life out of a relationship faster than anything. See, healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what happened was okay. Healing means you made peace with the past, so it no longer controls your future. You've got to process the hurt, learn the lesson, and release the bitterness. Otherwise, it's going to show up in every connection you try to build. A new partner can give you kindness, honesty, and consistency. But if you're still living in yesterday, you won't even recognize it. You'll reject good love because you're still trapped in old pain. And here's something real. It's not fair to hold somebody hostage for someone else's mistakes. If your ex broke your trust, that's not your new partner's fault. If your ex didn't know how to value you, that doesn't mean your new person won't. When you enter a relationship carrying all that suspicion, all that insecurity, all that anger, you end up creating problems that don't even exist. You start accusing, overthinking, checking phones, questioning every move, and eventually that person who came in with pure intentions feels like they can't win with you. They start to feel like no matter what they do, they'll always be paying for the crimes of somebody who isn't even around anymore. That wears people down, and sooner or later, they walk away. Healing takes courage because it means you've got to face yourself. You've got to admit the hurt, admit the disappointment, and admit the role you may have played. Sometimes it's not just about what they did to you. It's about what you allowed, what you ignored, and what you accepted when you knew better. Facing that truth isn't easy, but it's the only way to grow. Because when you heal, you don't just become ready for love again, you become wiser. You can spot the red flags quicker. You can communicate your needs better. You can trust without being non-avis, and you can love without being afraid. A healthy relationship can't thrive in the shadow of old pain. You've got to show up whole, not half, broken, expecting the other person to put you together. That's not their job. Their job is to love you, support you, and grow with you. But you've got to do the work of healing yourself. Nobody else can fix what's broken inside you. That's between you, your faith, your time, and your willingness to grow. When you take that time to heal, you walk into new love with a fresh heart. You can actually enjoy the present without dragging the past into it. You can look at your partner and see them for who they are, not who you're afraid they might turn out to be. And that's when real love happens, when you're free enough to give and receive it without the weight of yesterday holding you back. One of the saddest things that happens in relationships is how people stop doing the very things that made the other person fall in love in the first place. In the beginning, everybody's putting in effort. You're planning dates, you're sending sweet messages, you're showing up looking good, you're listening, you're being thoughtful. But somewhere down the line, once the commitment is made, folks start getting comfortable. They stop trying. They assume that just because they've got the person, they don't have to keep working to keep the relationship alive. And that's how love starts to fade. Not all at once, but little by little through neglect. You can't treat a relationship like it's on autopilot. Love is like a fire. If you don't feed it, it dies out. If you don't water it, it dries up. Too many people forget that relationships require daily maintenance. Just because you said, "I love you," once doesn't mean you don't need to keep saying it. Just because you took them on one vacation last year doesn't mean you don't need to keep creating new memories. Just because you were romantic when you were dating doesn't mean you get to slack off now. If anything, once you've committed, you should be doing more, not less, because now you're building a life together. Effort is not about big, expensive gestures all the time. It's the small things that matter most. It's the text in the middle of the day just to say, "I'm thinking about you." It's the hug in the kitchen while dinner's cooking. It's paying attention to the details, like remembering how they take their coffee or noticing when they've had a tough day and stepping in to make it easier. Those little things might not seem like much, but they add up to a feeling of being valued, seen, and appreciated. And when people feel appreciated, they give even more love in return. What ruins a lot of relationships is when one or both people start taking each other for granted. They assume the other person isn't going anywhere, so they stop showing gratitude, stop complimenting, stop prioritizing. They get so focused on work, kids, bills, or personal goals that they forget the person standing right beside them needs attention too. Then years pass, and one day they wake up wondering why the spark is gone. The spark didn't just disappear, it was neglected. Nurturing love also means making time. Everybody's busy. Everybody has responsibilities. But no matter how demanding life gets, you've got to protect time for each other. Date nights aren't just for the early stages. They're for every stage. Whether it's going out to dinner, taking a walk, or even just turning off the TV and having a real conversation, that intentional time keeps you connected. Because when you stop connecting, distance grows. And distance is dangerous in relationships. Another piece of nurturing love is never stopping the pursuit. People think once they've won the person, the chase is over. But the truth is, love is not about winning someone once. It's about choosing them every single day. Keep flirting, keep surprising, keep reminding your partner that they're still the one. Keep showing them that you're not just with them out of habit, but out of desire and choice. That's what keeps love alive through the years. It also takes effort to keep growing together. People change over time, their dreams, their needs, their perspectives. If you're not nurturing love by adapting and learning each other all over again, you'll wake up one day and feel like you're living with a stranger. You've got to keep asking questions, keep showing interest, keep exploring life as a team. That way, the bond doesn't just survive, it evolves. At the end of the day, commitment is not the finish line, it's the starting line. Saying yes to a relationship, an engagement, or a marriage doesn't mean the work is over. It means the work is just beginning. If you want love that lasts, you have to nurture it like it's precious, because it is. And the more you feed it, the more it grows. One of the most dangerous things in a relationship is when pride, selfishness, or fear starts running the show. Love cannot grow in an environment where ego is louder than understanding, where one person always has to get their way, or where both people are too afraid to be real with each other. Those three things, pride, selfishness, and fear, have ended more relationships than infidelity ever could, because they eat away at the foundation little by little until there's nothing left. Pride makes people act like they don't care when they actually do. It makes a man refuse to say, "I'm sorry," even when he knows he hurt her feelings. It makes a woman stay silent instead of admitting, "I miss you," because she doesn't want to look vulnerable. Pride keeps people in competition mode, like every disagreement is about who's right instead of what's right for the relationship. The truth is, you can either protect your pride or you can protect your love, but you can't do both. Sometimes you've got to be humble enough to admit you were wrong, to apologize, or to bend even when you don't feel like it. Pride wins battles, but it loses relationships. Then there's selfishness. And let me tell you, selfishness is poison to love. A relationship is not a one-way street. It's not all about what you want, how you feel, and what makes you happy. If you're always taking and never giving, eventually your partner is going to run dry. Real love requires sacrifice. It requires compromise. Sometimes it means doing things you don't want to do just because it matters to the person you love. It means putting their needs on the table right alongside yours and finding a way to meet in the middle. Too many people want the benefits of love without the responsibility of it. But you can't build something lasting if both people aren't willing to serve each other selflessly. Fear is another silent killer in relationships. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being hurt again. People let fear make their decisions instead of love. So they hold back They build walls, they test their partner instead of trusting them. They sabotage something good before it has the chance to grow. Fear keeps people from being fully present because they're too busy worrying about what might go wrong. And here's the thing, fear attracts the very thing you're afraid of. If you're constantly acting like you're about to lose your partner, eventually your behavior will push them away. If you're constantly questioning their loyalty, eventually the relationship collapses under the weight of your doubt. Love takes courage. It takes vulnerability. It takes putting your guard down and trusting that even if it doesn't work out, at least you gave it your all. That's the only way to experience true intimacy. Because when pride, selfishness, or fear is in control, you never really give your whole heart. You're either protecting your ego, protecting your comfort, or protecting yourself from pain. But in doing that, you're also blocking love. A strong relationship is built when both people decide to fight against those three things every day. When they say, I'd rather apologize and restore peace than hold on to my pride. When they say, I'd rather give up some of what I want than make you feel unseen. When they say, I'd rather risk being hurt than miss out on the beauty of real love. That's when love grows. That's when trust deepens. That's when the bond becomes unshakable. At the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to win arguments or do you want to win each other's hearts every day? Do you want to play it safe and let fear run your relationship? Or do you want to love fully and experience the joy of knowing you gave your all? Because the truth is, you can't love halfway. Pride, selfishness, and fear are walls, and love doesn't lie behind walls. Love needs space, freedom, humility, and sacrifice to flourish. One of the biggest lessons people learn too late in relationships is that ignoring red flags always comes back to hurt you. The truth is, people usually show you who they are early on, but instead of believing what's right in front of them, they believe in what they hope the person will become. They see signs of dishonesty, signs of disrespect, signs of laziness, signs of irresponsibility, but they look the other way because they don't want to start over, or they're afraid of being alone, or they're so caught up in the idea of love that they ignore the reality of it. And that's how people set themselves up for heartbreak. A red flag is not just a small inconvenience. It's a warning. It's life's way of saying, pay attention. This might not end well. But too many people convince themselves otherwise. They'll say, oh, he only lies sometimes, he'll grow out of it. Oh, she only disrespects me when she's mad. It's not that serious. Or, yeah, he doesn't really want to work now, but once we're married, he'll change. That kind of thinking is what traps people in relationships that drain their soul. What you ignore in the beginning will become the very thing that breaks you in the end. When you overlook red flags, you're not protecting love, you're delaying pain. You can't pray away someone's bad character. You can't love away their selfishness. You can't ignore away their irresponsibility. If they show you who they are and you choose to stay anyway, you're signing up for the consequences that come with it. Because people rarely hide their true selves for long. Eventually the truth comes out, and by then you're already emotionally invested, tied down, and it hurts even more to walk away. The reason so many people ignore red flags is because of hope. Hope is beautiful, but misplaced hope is dangerous. You start falling for someone's potential instead of their reality. You tell yourself stories like, A has so much promise if he just gets it together, or she'll treat me better once she realizes how much I love her. But the reality is, you can't build a future on what if. You can only build a future on what is. And what is what's standing in front of you right now, not what you dream they could be. Another reason people ignore red flags is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of not finding someone better. But what you don't realize is staying with the wrong person because of fear doesn't prevent pain, it guarantees it. You're not avoiding heartbreak. You're choosing a slower version of it. And all the while, you're blocking yourself from meeting someone who could actually give you the love and respect you deserve. Respecting red flags means having the courage to walk away when something doesn't feel right. It means valuing yourself enough to say, I don't care how much I like you. I don't care how good it feels sometimes. If you can't treat me right, I'm not staying. It's about trusting your instincts. Deep down, you usually know when something is off. You can feel it in your gut. The problem is, most people silence that voice because they don't want to face the truth. But ignoring that voice won't make the truth go away. A strong relationship is not built on excuses. It's built on consistency, honesty, and respect. If you have to keep justifying someone's behavior, if you have to keep making excuses for them, if you have to keep telling yourself, it's not that bad, then it's already bad. When people show you patterns of who they are, believe them. Don't wait until it turns into heartbreak to finally admit you saw the signs all along. When you learn to respect red flags, you protect your peace, your time, and your future. You stop wasting years trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. You stop lowering your standards just to have company. And you give yourself the chance to experience love the way it's supposed to be. Safe, secure, respectful, and real.